Into the Barchive, where the past comes alive. Forgotten drinks will revive. Oh, we thrive. Sip the tales, let them jive. Welcome to the Barchive.
Welcome in, Barchivist. Usually on our episodes, we talk about spirits. You know, gin, rum, tequila, whiskey.
You know, the things that give cocktails their backbone. But as we come to the end of dry January, today we're asking a slightly different type of question.
Whew. What makes a cocktail a cocktail?
Yeah, and what happens when you take the alcohol out of the cocktail?
Ah.
And, you know, there's been a big change over the past several years. Non-alcoholic cocktails are no longer an afterthought, and they're not just kids' drinks anymore.
But I can still have my Shirley Temples.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you want a Shirley Temple, you can have a Shirley Temple. And so today we're going to be looking at non-alcoholic cocktails from like two different approaches. One that's more technique driven, that tries to replicate some of the experiences of a cocktail, but only using like juices, teas, spices, sugars, sodas. And then another one where you're trying to bring in non-alcoholic spirits.
Oh, the trend over the last 2 years, bringing NA spirits as a replacement, not just fruit juices and syrups.
Yeah, so trying to see, can you build purpose-built NA spirits to replace the function of the gin, whiskey, rum, tequila, etc.
I take it today we will be looking at both versions of a cocktail?
Absolutely. So I figure I'll take one approach, you take the other. So the cocktail I'll make today will be using just juices, teas, syrups, sodas, things like that, to show how you can replicate the structure of a cocktail without substituting in an NA spirit.
Then I get to play with the NA.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
So I guess it's time to shake things up.
Let's get shaken.
For our first non-alcoholic cocktail, one that is replicating the structure of the cocktail without substituting in a non-alcoholic spirit for the alcohol, we're going to make a Grey Fox. This is an original cocktail by Anders Erickson, another cocktail YouTuber. And what he does is he takes and makes a rich Earl Grey syrup. And the way you do that essentially is you steep Earl Grey tea bags in water and then add twice as much sugar as the resulting tea, which means it's rich, right? So it's a 2-to-1 syrup. So 2 parts sugar to 1 part water. From there, we're going to add in 1 ounce of freshly squeezed lemon juice. Add that in there. The next ingredient we're going to add is an egg white. And so I've got this egg white here. In his recipe, he called for aquafaba, which is the water if you drained off chickpeas. That has a similar effect as egg white and is the kind of accepted vegan alternative to an egg white. But because we already had eggs out and cracking them, I thought we would go the egg white instead. And so what I'm going to do is do a reverse dry shake. So that means I'm going to add ice to my big tin first, because I like and feel like I get a better seal by doing the wet shake first. So give it that 10 to 15 second shake. And then after you've done that wet shake, break the seal. And then you're going to strain your liquid into the other tin, like so. And kind of be patient, because some of that's coming out of the end is the froth that you're building up from the egg white. From there, dump out the ice, and then you'll make your dry shake. And this will give it that extra froth. And again, there may be small little shards of ice left over from the wet shake, but that is also going to be a cue for me to know when I'm done doing the dry shake. Is once I hear that any of those remaining ice shards have fully melted and diluted, and by shaking this extra time, I'm going to create additional froth. And so I'll break the seal there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a highball or a Collins glass, and I'm going to add some ice cubes to it. And so for this one, I'm going to add some cubes I did with molds in the freezer. In the bar industry, they would call these cold draft cubes. So kind of large square cubes that look like this. And I have a little small one that I think maybe I could fit in to get one more. No, not quite. So I've got my cubes as so. I'll put my cubes back into my freezer. The next step is I'm going to take a little high quality tonic water. I'm using one from Q Mixers. Fever Tree would be another good brand to use here. And I'm just going to pour like an ounce or so into the bottom of the cocktail. Now I'm going to strain my mixture into the drink. And I'm going to finish by adding more tonic water. And so as you get to the top, be very careful. And kind of let it set for a minute, because you can see it's foaming up. And it's almost has like a Ramesh gin fizz like quality to it, where you can have it rise a little above the top of the glass. To finish the drink, I'm going to add just an expression of lemon oil from a lemon. So just express that out. And you can see you got some really good oil there. And I'm just going to discard that and then grab a straw to enjoy my Grey Fox. Cheers.
For the second cocktail, I get to play with the innate spirit, Pathfinder, which gives this cocktail its name, the Wandering Path. Jeffrey Morgenthaler, thank you for this recipe. In our shaking tin, we're going to put 2 ounces of our Pathfinder innate spirit. That innate spirit is going to give the mouthfeel of what a liquor would be. Some of those herbs and spices that would come from a more of a, would you say, Amaro?
Yeah, this would definitely be an Amaro.
We will now have our next ingredient, which will be grapefruit juice. Most of the time, we recommend using fresh. During this time of year, grapefruit isn't always the freshest, so try to get something that is no sugar added and organic if you have to go with the pre-squeezed or bottled. 1 ounce of grapefruit juice. From here, we're going to do 3/4 of an ounce of freshly squeezed lemon juice. Our next ingredient is going to be 1/4 of an ounce of rich simple syrup. And remember, simple syrup is 1-to-1 ratio, one part water, 1 part sugar. The rich will be 1 part water, 2 parts sugar. And again, just 1/4 of an ounce. Adds a little bit of sweetness to take away some of the tartness coming from the 2 citruses. Lastly, we're going to make sure that we add that same egg white. This is going to be another frothy, foamy cocktail. Drop it on into your tin. And now, we too will do a reverse dry shake. I think reverse dry shaking or a dry shake is typically a user preference. It's a bartender, how they feel comfortable. Blake and I both agree, though, we tend to go this route because we get a pretty daggum good seal in that first go. And then we can build a froth later. Was baking for about 10 to 15 seconds again. And really, this part is to help break up that egg white. After we're done shaking, and we know again we're done shaking, we've got a nice froth built around the tin. We're going to crack our seal, and now we're going to strain back into our small tin. And that beautiful color coming into this cocktail is definitely coming from that NA spirit. After we have strained off our liquid, dump. And now, let's build some head. Back into the tin. It goes. Get another good seal and shake away. As mentioned before, you may hear a little bit of some of those ice shards from the previous. Good indicator to let you know that you can keep shaking just to help build up some of that head that's going to be on the final presentation of the cocktail. I don't hear it anymore. It's time to pour. Grab your chilled coupe. And now we strain. For this one, you can double strain. I choose not to right now. I don't hear any additional shards in that. And for this cocktail, I don't think it will play too harshly with my mouthfeel. Beautiful froth at the top.
Absolutely. That's gorgeous.
And now we have our wandering path. Cheers. As usual, now that we've built the cocktails, let's build some context. So Blake, mocktails, non-alcoholic cocktails, dry January. Is this all new? Like, where did this phenomenon come from?
Well, the whole idea of non-alcoholic cocktails or drinks or more sophisticated non-alcoholic drinks is really nothing new. Dating way back into the 1700s and beyond, there were shrubs, which is like fruit and vinegar mixed together.
Yep.
Sodas, switchels.
A switchel?
Yeah, it's like a mixture of vinegar, ginger, molasses, and waters.
Okay, shrub-esque.
Yeah. In the family of a shrub, you had medicinal tonics. You had small beer.
Yes, I have small batch beer all the time.
No, different type. Like lower ABV beer where, maybe more than what we would call a non-alcoholic beer today. But in an era when the drinking water wasn't always safe, you would have small beer for women, children, enslaved people like in the American South. Like George Washington left behind his recipe for small beer that would have been consumed by the many residents of his Mount Vernon estate.
So water, not clean, so therefore we're distilling something, or we're fermenting something, brewing. Yeah. Okay.
And so from there, you got that long history there. And then as the 19th century, the 1800s move along, we see the beginning of the temperance movement.
Yeah, which I understand you know a lot of.
I mean, as someone with a history background, I've read my fair share about the temperance movement.
Okay, so how does this play into our mocktails or low ABV cocktails?
Sure. Well, they, of course, were urging moderation in drinking, but over the course of the 1800s, they went from favoring like moderation to prohibition.
I mean, straight up, hey, you can have a little bit, a little dab of do you here, tincture there, but then all of a sudden it's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, even in Jerry Thomas's Bartender's Guide in 1862, he had a whole section of temperance drinks in his books.
Whoa. So we've got a book that is all about cocktails.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, hey, I know that I need to make sure this demographic is covered so I can sell more copies, and were those any good?
Well, I mean, there were types of like lemonades and things like that. And again, whether it was depending on in what social context you were, who was around, because think about this. Bars during the 1800s were no place for women. And so, you might, if you're making these drinks at home, need something for women, children, other people who weren't drinking for whatever reason. But there were all sorts of temperance drinks during this time period. Root beer, spruce beer, lemonades, and not just like a straight up lemonade, but ones that might have added spices and bitterness and a little more complexity.
Wait. So from this movement, we get what, sarsaparilla?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be another root that was used to make beverages during this time period. And then you have the emergence of temperance bars, not just temperance drinks, but temperance bars or coffee houses.
Okay, I've always imagined that tea houses and coffee houses already existed prior to this. So did this cause like a resurgence in our area, or?
Well, I mean, in some areas, coffee houses were bars. It was just like a euphemism. But then coffee houses can become temperance bars, essentially, where you have the social space without the intoxication.
I get it now. It's much like modern university culture is we're going to the library, and there's always a bar near the university called the library. Okay, gotcha.
And so these temperance drinks, even in the 1800s, they were meant to replace the social role of alcohol rather than its intoxicating effects.
Okay, we can still sit here. We're sipping on the back porch drinking a tea, right? Like it's giving them something to do while they are socializing.
Absolutely. Or like, let's, beyond just like sitting on a porch, but like, let's go meet at this location at a non-meal time and consume beverages and socialize.
Understood. And that seems to be coming back now, though, right? With the proof of reintroducing. But before we go there, then, like, where did this movement come from? Like, how did it how did it come back? Like, again, if that was a way from the temperance movement, then we roar back into it, and then we got full booze again. We went from crappy mocktails or crappy cocktails, not throwing any shade to any restaurants with a acronym in their name or anything like that you would have gone to a bartending school for. But now we've got elevated bars that they are only focused back on mocktails or no low or no ABV cocktails.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a transition, I think, as adults want more sophistication in their drinks. I mean, and it's not like there's this gap, prohibition happens and then there's nothing going on. It's that the more sophisticated non-alcoholic drinks initially start at soda fountains with soda jerks, like in the early 20th century. And they would be making very intense technique-driven drinks like phosphates and egg creams and things like that. And some of those same techniques much would be rediscovered by people trying to bring complexity back to non-alcoholic drinks later. But it's really in the mid-20th century, kind of in that post-World War II need for convenience,
Okay.
right? In the alcoholic world, right, the quality of spirit sometimes goes down.
Yep.
Fresh juices and syrups get replaced with artificial sour mixes. In the non-alcoholic realm, you have sugary sodas and juice blends replacing thoughtful non-alcoholic cocktails or drinks or technique-driven drinks.
Going to like our Shirley Temple.
Exactly. And the idea is to appeal to younger audiences, and really adult non-drinkers get abandoned in the mid-20th century.
Okay.
Because it's like all about the high sugar sodas and the high fructose corn syrup and things like that.
Overly sweet things where I may want something a little more bitter for an adult palate.
Bingo.
Okay.
And so, as part of the modern craft cocktail revival, they've tried to restore things like balance and bitterness and ritual. It's not just opening up like a can of Sprite and dumping a bunch of cheap grenadine made of high fructose corn syrup, artificial cherry flavoring, and a lot of red food dye.
Yeah.
And then topping it with an neon red maraschino cherry. You know, like the modern craft cocktail renaissance is trying to have a similar amount of thoughtfulness to non-alcoholic drinks as to alcoholic drinks.
So today we've taken you've mentioned the two different approaches to this. So not to ostracize one where there isn't any, but like in NA or low ABV kind of realm over here. So navigate me through these two approaches then.
So, I mean, one way to think about it is that, you know, whether you use the term mocktail or non-alcoholic cocktail, and a lot of times the word mocktail has come to connote drinks that have no, like, NA spirit in them, just a mixture of juices and things. And like for many years, whether it was a Shirley Temple or you go to a bar, I'm not drinking, could you make me something? And it says, oh, here's some pineapple juice, here's some grenadine, here's some orange juice, maybe a little lemon juice, and they just throw a bunch of juices together and hit it with club soda or Sprite and call it good. The non-alcoholic drinks of today are more technique-driven. So, for instance, in the drink that I made, the Grey Fox that Anders Erickson came up with, the idea here is not to replace the alcohol with an NA spirit. It's to imitate the functions of alcohol. So things like dryness, bitterness, weight, like that finish and length on your palate. And so instead of using alcohol, the citrus in it helps provide some structure.
Yep.
One of the things that alcohol brings is texture and viscosity. And so like using the rich Earl Grey syrup here, like the rich syrup adds more viscosity, more body to the cocktail. And not necessarily this drink, but in any sort of NA drink like this that's more technique driven, using things like spices or salt or bitter to provide complexity. So, I mean, think about this. Like the tonic water brings the bitterness with the quinine.
Yep.
And then the tea syrup. Tea brings
as some texture for tannins and probably even some bitterness with it being an Earl Grey, right?
Absolutely. And that's one of the other things that sometimes alcohol brings to the party is tannins. That has an astringency that kind of resets our palate. And so the tea in way adds some of that complexity to the cocktail. But you still have to think about things like temperature, dilution, texture along the way.
Okay, so we've a beautiful cocktail, right? It looked amazing. What's a pro to this approach out of the two approaches compared to going, say, the other way?
So one of the big pros is the ingredients can be very accessible, right? Lemon juice, egg white, tea, tonic water, sugar. I mean, pretty simple there. If you're serving this at a bar, this is going to have a lower pour cost because you're not buying a commercially made NA spirit. It also has a clear identity as its own drink. It's not trying to be a non-alcoholic margarita or a non-alcoholic Manhattan.
Where we already have a preconceived notion of what that thing should taste like.
Exactly. It's like you say, this is a Grey Fox. You taste it and you're like, wow, that's complex. It's fizzy. It's got, it has balance. And so I'm not judging it against any alcoholic counterpart.
Do you mind if we take a quick moment about like making that syrup and talk about like how easy, again, I know during the making of the cocktail, you stated it, but like, let's talk very much the ease of making that cocktail. It's basically making that syrup, sorry. It's basically making a very rich Earl Grey tea, or tea in general. Yeah. You could replace that Earl Grey with, chamomile,
rooibos. I mean,
so I think it was 4-to-1 ratio, 4 bags to 1 cup that you would usually, and just steep it like you would normally steep it. Go a little longer if you want it more bitter.
Yeah.
Right. And then from there, it's double the sugar because it's a rich syrup. Mm-hmm. So by weight, ultimately, if we weighted to be, probably 100-ish grams for that 1 cup, or 200 grams maybe for that cup, you would go 200 for the sugar or 400 for the sugar then, right? Like, it's simple to make.
Yeah, I mean, syrups aren't always that difficult to make, and one of the unique ways that you can customize syrups is change your base liquid. A simple syrup is just water and sugar. You can keep the sugar the same. I mean, you can add complexity by going from white sugar to granulated sugar, white sugar to honey, but the other way you can vary your syrups is in the liquid. So instead of plain water, make tea. You can make like a fruit syrup, like replace the water with like pineapple juice and have a pineapple syrup and things of that nature.
And then potentially even go just to the pills and make an oleosaccharum. But that could be another episode.
Yes, it is.
Okay, then let's go to the sake, if you don't mind. Let's go to the sake cocktail, the Wandering Path, like the NA approach.
So on the Wandering Path, the key to it is this Pathfinder non-alcoholic Amaro. And so an Amaro is essentially an Italian bittersweet liqueur. Okay, so it takes a variety of roots and herbs and botanicals and blends them in with some sort of spirit or wine base. What the Pathfinder does is it has that complexity.
Yeah.
But they ferment and distill hemp seed to provide the base. Now, this is not hemp seed in the sense of like CBD, THC. This is like a way to add some of that complexity without any other sort of intoxicating effects from that side of the spectrum as well. So that's going to be kind of the star of the show in the Wandering Path.
Then from this, where did it come to existence then? Like, it just, somebody wasn't like, hey, I'm tired of drinking booze. Like, or is it really just that simple?
Well, I mean, sometimes people, and we can talk about this in a little bit, decide to not drink for a variety of reasons. It's not because they're stopping drinking altogether. NA spirits, like, people want ritual and structure. People enjoy making drinks or watching like sitting at a bar and watching people make drinks for them.
Yeah.
And maybe they desire the bitterness and the dryness of a cocktail or alcohol without the ethanol and the intoxication. So they want a lot of that complexity, but maybe not some of the other side effects of the alcohol.
Okay, so this one it's definitely trying to mimic an Amaro like cocktail, right? I mean, the specs pretty dag spot on. It's just switching out that bad boy there, right?
I mean, it's kind of an Amaro sour.
Oh yeah,
sorts. I mean, just replacing whether you were using like Amaro Montenegro or Averna or any number of just switching that in so you get some of the same complexity that those Amari bring to the table. And then some of the things that Jeffrey Morgenthaler in constructing this cocktail was like the grapefruit juice. Grapefruit adds a little extra bitterness to it. And then the rich simple syrup, instead of using just the plain simple syrup, using the rich simple syrup adds more texture and body, even in a 1/4 ounce.
Without adding the additional 1/4 ounce to potentially thin the cocktail out even more.
Yeah. So if you use like a 1/2 ounce of simple syrup, you're adding that extra 1/4 ounce of dilution to the drink. And so that's one of the concerns about non-alcoholic drinks is because they're missing the texture and viscosity from the alcohol.
Okay.
Like texture is a big issue. And that is also the reason you have egg whites in both.
It does bring a familiarity for a good, like you mentioned there, fizz.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing a fizz approach to it, and then for a traditional sour, giving that nice, smooth mouthfeel.
Yeah, and again, the egg white, the main purpose it serves is texture, mouthfeel, viscosity, and that's an area where sometimes people fail in non-alcoholic drinks.
Pros and cons of this one then, since we did for the other.
So, the pros of using non-alcoholic spirits in these drinks are, like if you're wanting a margarita, you can get a non-alcoholic tequila to substitute in a non-alcoholic triple sec. So you can use a familiar cocktail architecture. So like our past series on cocktail templates, you could plug in and use the Mr. Potato Head approach, but this time switching out your alcoholic spirit for your non-alcoholic spirit. Sometimes bitterness and length are easier to achieve because the people producing the alcoholic or the NA spirits have done some of that thinking for you in terms of the bitterness and complexity. Whereas if you're not using one of those, like, okay, how am I going to bring bitterness? Okay, I've got to make a tea syrup rather than just a plain simple syrup.
Yeah. Then some of the cons, the limitations of this.
Well, part of it's cost.
Yep.
And like, there are people who will go to a bar and be like, why am I paying essentially the same price or not much less for a non-alcoholic drink as I am for a fully leaded alcoholic cocktail? Because these costs, like you're buying fully alcoholic gin or vodka or rum or tequila, these non-alcoholic spirits are not cheap.
No. At times, it costs more to produce that because they're potentially distilling the first thing and then, or producing the first thing and then stripping out. They're having to do something on the back end to do more, correct?
Yeah, doing de-alcoholized spirits. And so one of the other issues, of course, is not all non-alcoholic spirits behave the same way. And whether they're a de-alcoholized spirit or they're trying to get a similar flavor profile in different ways, like another popular brand of NA Spirits, Ritual Zero Proof, they don't de-alcoholize. They try to build up to that flavor profile. So their spirits might work differently than a brand that de-alcoholizes. And so, and regardless of their techniques, the botanicals they use or the things that they do to try to achieve some of the effects of alcohol, like Ritual, for instance, they add capsaicin in small amounts.
For the heat, the spice, the burn.
The burn, yeah,
Yeah.
because that's one of the other things that's missing in non-alcoholic cocktails is the burn, and so they try to add it in with there. Well, not all NA spirits go that route.
Okay.
And so, the Mr. Potato Head approach might work as a starting point, but it doesn't necessarily be like, oh, it's a 1-for-1 swap. You may have to do a little tinkering with it to get something that makes you happy.
Yeah, I know we've over the last 3-4 years, we have played around with quite a few NA spirits because they are not all created equal, or much like base spirits. Maybe you need a little extra pepper in this one for a little extra kick, a little more citrus and whatever. They all do not act the same. And so while it is a pricier toy to play with, just because you didn't like the first one doesn't mean you won't like the second.
Absolutely. I mean, and there are, again, some amazing producers out there, but the key issue is, how do you tackle the texture problem? I remember we were at Total Wine one time, and Seedlip was doing a tasting. Do you remember?
I do remember this one.
And we went and tasted through their lineup.
It was like a carrot or something was on the bottle. Like they had different,
It was
images.
the garden,
Yeah.
an orange, more citrusy one.
Yeah.
And I remember our conversation. It was like, wow, these have a lot of good flavor, right?
Yep. Flavor. Definitely had great flavor, but I don't know that we ever used that specific like garden one in I think it was a gin. It was a gin, not a spinoff, right?
Yeah, like an earthier type of gin. But I remember us, kind of the takeaway was like, it tastes like water. It's like very complexly flavored water.
But had no like mouthfeel that needed to be there. Like you would get some viscosity or something. But yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where that's the key problem. And also when you're doing like NA spirits, in my opinion, so take it or leave it, or take it for what it's worth.
I usually take it.
So it's like these spirits are meant to be used in cocktails, not to sip neat like you would a whiskey or a long age rum or a tequila or a mezcal. These are spirits meant to be used in cocktails to help fill in some of those other gaps.
Do we pivot just for a moment and go slightly away from cocktails and talk about non-alcoholic beverages?
I mean, just to say that the consensus has seemed to be like non-alcoholic wine has seemed to struggle the most, and some of it may be like format issues. Is like, it may be easy if you like non-alcoholic wine and want to have a glass, but like it's still served in the traditional 750 milliliter bottle format.
Yep. Once you open it, it's a ticking time bomb.
Absolutely. And you have the people who want to drink it with you.
Yep.
In that sense. NA spirits, I would say, are kind of occupying the middle ground in this spectrum, but NA beer really seems to be leading the way in terms of non-alcoholic beverages.
Yeah, I mean, nationally, there are several brands now that are in the cooler area of your grocery store, your beer joint. I just recently got back from Denver, and a very prominent brewery there now has their own versions that they have on draft.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty unique to see that and to see it still strong, and especially those that are doing their dry January or that they've gone a lifestyle completely away from.
Mm-hmm. And I think, like, of beer companies, of course, the most successful one's been Athletic.
That was the one I was thinking of, but not the one that I visited.
Yeah. And Athletic, one of the unique things they do is instead of like brewing a full strength beer and then de-alcoholizing it or removing the alcohol, is they brew up to the 0.5%.
Yep.
And so like an NA Spirit legally can have up to 0.5% ABV.
Okay.
And so depending on why you're pursuing like a non-alcoholic beverage, you know, maybe that doesn't work for you, but Athletic has been successful because they're not removing anything. So their product is more full flavored. I'll never forget the time we were at a football game and you were doing
I was doing dry January.
and we went to
Every single concession stand that we possibly could, because the first 8 of them were out of, it was Athletics Pale Ale or something like that. Or
yeah. And I remember because like on the way in to the stadium from our tailgate, I had drank a Bud Light or something like that. And then in solidarity, once we were inside the stadium, once we finally found an Athletic, I got one with you. I'm like, oh my God, this has more flavor than the Bud Light. And so we've made a lot of success. I think producers are trying to tackle some of the issues inherent with non-alcoholic beverages.
So let's go to the history then, if you don't mind. Let's pull it back a little bit further. Like, where did dry January come from? Or was it just a reason not to drink? Right?
Yeah. So Dry January is not some like sort of social media campaign hashtag in terms of its origins, but it was actually a public health initiative launched by the British government in 2013 by Alcohol Change UK.
And the UK was like, hey guys, you're going to the pub a little bit too much. So we need to like slow down consumption. Or was this like when Guinness decided it was low in format, was that year, and they were like, we've got to find a way to save this?
Well, and I think it was really just a way to reset habits.
Okay.
Not a way to enforce abstinence from alcohol and things like that. And really, if you think about it, it's a cultural reset after a month or two of excess from the holidays.
Oh, definitely from the holidays. I mean, most of us, we get into our wellness fitness goals. Hey, I want to hit the gym, and the gym's 20% more packed than it was, going into it. It's an easy way, if you cut out alcohol altogether, to lower the calorie intake. So yeah, fitness, I can see that after November and December going pretty hard, and then rounding off the new year.
But I mean, in another sense, although the official Dry January might only be just over a decade old, the notion of periodic abstinence has existed for centuries. Like people, whether it's temperance movements saying, maybe we should moderate our intake, or religious fasting like Lent, which is coming up as people abstain, whether it's from alcohol or chocolate or meat or whatever the case may be. Again, that's nothing new. Dry January is just the modern secular version that's given us the cultural permission to say, I'm not drinking tonight, without having to explain it.
So then, why, other than it, have we not covered any reasons that somebody would choose not to drink?
Well, I mean, there are reasons people choose not to drink, whether that's permanently or temporarily.
Okay.
So sometimes it's just, I'm doing this because I need a reset, like with the Dry January, or it's I want to see how I feel. Okay. Without drinking. For some people, it's their health or medications they're taking, whether that's because a woman is pregnant or like going through fertility treatments. It could deal with chronic health conditions that maybe alcohol exacerbates, or it could just be dealing with your mental health as well. Also, people may choose to abstain from drinking periodically because of performance, whether they're training for a marathon or their work requires early mornings or travel and they feel like they've got to have that clarity.
I think I've heard this term of like, is it called zebra striping, right? It's when you choose to either, hey, certain days I'll do it. I'll limit myself on other days. There's I think an approach is our Mr. Potato Head again. Maybe use NA spirit for the base, but go and still use the same Amaro, which is a lower ABV, just to lower the ABV. Is that same approach?
Well, I mean, zebra striping is also like on a night out. Like if you're going out with your friends, it's like, okay, I'm going to maybe drink an alcoholic cocktail the first round. The second round, I'll drink a non-alcoholic cocktail.
Okay.
And so zebra striping in the sense of going back and forth between the two. So you extend the night out without increasing your intoxication levels.
So that's I guess I was doing it without knowing it. It's the beverage and then a water and then a beverage and maybe a mocktail itself. But always throwing something in between the two heavy hitters.
Yes. And the idea behind like more complex non-alcoholic cocktails and zebra striping is that you have options than just like club soda or like more sugary soda. It's like you can have an elevated, sophisticated adult beverage that doesn't have alcohol in it.
So NA cocktails are not always about abstinence then. They're about social inclusion.
Yeah, and mindfulness and intentionality. And what's interesting is, according to a study done by VinePair, much of the rise in sales and non-alcoholic products are driven by people who practice zebra striping or dry January or other moderation behaviors rather than by people who abstain from drinking altogether.
Bring it back to that social aspect, right? The coffee bar that we talked about at the very, very, very beginning. Yeah. It's a place for us to gather. It's an event for us to be and do, and it's something to do while we're at that event.
Absolutely.
Very nice. As we wrap up this episode with Dry January, okay, it's worth remembering that non-alcoholic cocktails aren't about restriction.
Yeah.
Keith?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not about what you're taking away. Instead, it's about choice, hospitality, and good design, right? To make a good non-alcoholic cocktail requires the same level of design and intentionality as making an alcoholic cocktail does.
Okay.
And so whether you're building a drink from juice, spice, and bitterness, or reaching for a non-alcoholic spirit like the Pathfinder to recreate classic structure, the same rules of making good cocktails apply. Balance matters.
A great drink should feel complete, no matter what's in the glass.
Yeah, because the truth of the matter is people have always taken breaks from alcohol. What's changed is that we're finally giving those moments the same care and creativity we give to everything else behind the bar.
I think that concludes today, so what's next?
So next time on Into the Barchive, we're turning up the heat. We'll be exploring hot drinks.
Yes, like the hot toddy and the Kyoki coffee?
Absolutely.
All right.
And we'll look at how warmth changes structure, aroma, and intention in a cocktail. Because long before drinks were shaken over ice, they were poured hot for comfort, for health, and for company. Same principles, different form. When we come back into the Barchive.